everyone, and welcome back to episode number 2 of Talking the PS, your weekly PlayStation and cloud gaming show where myself and my lovely 2 co-hosts round up all of the PlayStation and cloud gaming news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/Helix Cloud Games, or up there in the digital cloud on your podcast preference of choice. We have a great show for you lined up this week, talking about some fantastic new games coming to the world of PlayStation, our first impressions of cloud gaming, and PlayStation Plus' new subscription plan in general, some exciting new additional DLCs, Final Fantasy going open world, Tony Hawk's being cancelled, and much, much more. But before we get into all that, do give the video a like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you're kept in the loop with all of the amazing content we bring you here at Helix Cloud Games, just like our Let's Plays, live streams, CloudQuest episodes, and our one and only Sounds of Stadia podcast that goes live every week right here on the channel. This week, I'm joined by my lovely 2 co-hosts. Once again, the man of many pixels joins me for episode number 2, Mr. Richie. Welcome.
You know what? It turns out Activision continue to talk to PS.
See what you did there. Going off the show. And joining alongside him, returning once again, our chaotic neutral, Rob. Welcome back.
Hello.
Hello.
Good to be back.
Good to be back. In a different format this week, guys. We went for a vertical slice approach to the cameras. Not that we had any bad feedback from last week, but Jeff's busy this week. He's got some family matters to attend to, so he won't be jumping on for episode 2, but he will be back in the imminent future. If you want to check him out, find him at Platinum Jangus on Twitter, on Instagram, and on his own YouTube channel as well. If you're into some trophy hunting goodness, head over there. Gentlemen, we've got a busy show lined up. But we do need to take a pause from it and thank all of the hundreds of wonderful people who checked out episode number 1, our pilot episode of Talking the PS last week. Hundreds of you tuned in on YouTube and podcast services, and we can't thank you enough for your support and just checking the video out. It's something a bit different for our channel. We're really excited. We're still excited, but the fact that you all got on board, checked it out, gave us some love and support, it makes all the more worthwhile. I think if we were sat here and it had maybe garnered like 10, 11 views, we might be rethinking our approach to talking about PlayStation on this very show. But, as I said, great show lined up. Got plenty to talk about. I guess before we get into it all, gents, what we've been playing this week. It's a good place to start with any gaming podcast. Rob, I'll throw it over to you first. What games have you been checking out?
Lots, really. I stayed to my promise, and I played Fallout New Vegas, first of all. More on that later as we get into the show. But really, I've been kind of taking a bit of seasoning from everything that PS Plus has to offer. Because I kind of fell out the PlayStation ecosystem in the past kind of year. So I'm seeing kind of, what's new, really. And tastes good. It tastes very good.
Bring me back in, yeah. I think the massive collection available, it has the potential to be very overwhelming. I think we said on last week's show, the amount of kids who must pick up the library now and just go I don't even know where to spend 5 minutes, let alone hours of my gaming time. And that's a lot to delve into. But no surprise that you went on the hunt of one of your favourite games of all time immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Richie,
Absolutely.
How about yourself? What did you jump into this past week?
I did something similar where you get presented with over 700 games that I could jump into. So, of course, I jumped into a game I've played loads of times and went back to Final Fantasy X. In my defense, I was also rewatching Star Wars at the same time, so I wanted something where I could just kind of zone out and just do 2 things at once. So I didn't want anything new or intense.
I do feel as I've got older, I tend to multitask more whilst gaming than I ever used to. Like back in the day, it was very much a sit down and your entire commitment was the screen. But now I listen to podcasts, I have video feeds go in the background. I said a few weeks ago I was playing Lego Star Wars whilst watching through all the Star Wars movies on my tablet on the side. And is that just a sign of the times we're in, gents, that we have to be committed to everything at once rather than just focusing?
I've been doing that since my Warcraft days. It's one of the great things that I always liked about PC game where you have multiple monitors. You can have a YouTube video or a movie or something up while you're playing the game. When you get to a story beat, you just hit pause on the movie, go through that story beat, then restart. It's that's what I was doing last night.
Yeah, nice bit of fun about it. Why specifically Final Fantasy X, out of interest?
I have no idea. It just caught my eye. The weird thing is I actually have the disc. I've been playing the cloud version of it and have the disc set downstairs. But the nice thing about the cloud version is I can bounce between PC and both my PlayStation 4 and 5 without any hassle, without having to mess around moving saves about. So
Plenty to talk
that
about.
advantage. Yeah.
Well, yeah, the cloud one. Actually, we should probably point out, Richie, our episode of CloudQuest that goes up for our Helix Heroes, our YouTube members. It's actually available right now when this show goes live. It drops on free feeds on Friday, folks, so don't worry too much about that one. We actually did a pretty big deep dive into cloud gaming on PlayStation Plus Premium and how our first impressions of it compared to some of the other cloud platforms we do use. So check that out now if you're a Helix Hero, and if not, just hang fire for Friday and it'll go up on podcast services and right here on YouTube. Myself, I've been digging away in Jurassic World Evolution 2. So my good park management sim. I went and saw Jurassic World Dominion, the week before last now. So I've had that itch. I've actually had the game since Christmas, but there's been that many things come out during the busy period of the year. I thought I'll just put it on the shelf for now, knowing for a fine well fact that as soon as the movie came around this summer, I would have that urge to go back and mess around with some dinosaurs. Although I will say I got absolutely shafted last night by why can't I think of the name of it now? The Dilophosaurus, that annoying oil spill one. Yeah. So on the campaign mission, you've got to expedition and collect 6 of them from somewhere in America. So it's in kind of in line with the movie, where there's dinosaurs all over the United States, and you've got to go basically find them and bring them back to a sanctuary and build a sanctuary now rather than a park. And park was going great, and all the buildings, all the amenities, all the staff, everything rigged up, good to go. Dropped 6 of them into their pen, literally within 10 seconds of dropping them in the pen. Bust out the gate, killed somebody. So then, even though it was like a fully fenced off area, I don't know how they broke it. It was broke through the gate because there wasn't a goat to hunt down. That was the frustration. It was something as simple as I hadn't put a goat feeder in the pen yet. Broke out, all 6 of them got out. I had to go and tranquilise the bastards. And in that time, lawsuits started going up because people were dying, understandably. I'd spent quite a lot of money on getting the park ready, so I was quite on the breadline with my finances. That plunged me into bankruptcy, potentially, and the game gives you a 2-minute counter to get back into the green. Otherwise, the level just ends. So I lost an entire hour's worth of save because of one goddamn Dilophosaurus escaping.
I mean, this seems like a pretty accurate Jurassic Park simulator. Really.
Yeah,
it's like life finds a way.
Yeah, so. I actually panicked to a point where it got down to the last 20 seconds, and I started selling buildings. But buildings that you kind of need, but there's no way of recuperating the money. And it really made me think that the game could have a loan system similar to Roller Coaster Tycoon does, because other than deleting everything from the power supply, the emergency shelter, I was not recuperating those losses. Sack all the scientists, which you kind of need to do the job. So, funny one.
Imagine going to a bank and going, "Hi guys, can I have some money?" What for? Like Jurassic Park. And go, "Fuck off." No.
It's the insurance companies you want to worry about with that one. I don't know how they get coverage for that, but look, game looks gorgeous, and I can't wait to play a bit more of it amongst other things. But we'll get into some of the other games that we've been playing as well as we get into the thick of the show, because we've got plenty of PlayStation news to talk about, as I said. So Richie, will you do us the honours and introduce us to the
properly prepared PlayStation perusing points, aka the news.
Plenty of PlayStation news this week, sponsored by our Helix Heroes, you wonderful folks out there who support the channel a little bit more, from as little as 99p. You can actually get content early, stickers and badges in your name in the chat, exclusive perks and rewards, and also access to our content a few days early. So check that out if you do wish to support us gentlemen a little bit more. Right, as I said, big show this week, plenty to talk about, kickstarting things off with PlayStation Plus. We mentioned it a little bit at the beginning of the show, but it's fully out there. It's globally rolled out. We discussed it a little bit last week on the cusp of its national rollout. Gentlemen, I jumped into the premium tier because I think it was £2.86 for the rest of the month, for the next 40 days. And then after the fact, it's going to jump up to the normal price. Richie, throwing it over to you.
Yeah.
Did you jump in with a premium straight away?
Yeah, I did. I think it was only, I only paid about an extra £20 or something. That gets me all the way up to midnight.
The short
all the way up to New
experience.
Year's. It gets me all the way up to New Year's. With PlayStation Plus, then it'll be £100 a year after that. So yeah, I jumped straight in, and well, actually, we kind of deep dived our opinions on CloudQuest. I will say though, is last night when I was playing Final Fantasy, it was performing better than it was the previous 2 nights. So I don't know whether it's a case of that we just hit that a mass of people all trying to jump in at the same time, and the performance wasn't as good. Now it's settled down a bit. Or maybe it's just I just come a bit more accustomed to it. I don't know, but I think it was performing better than we made out in CloudQuest. But you should check out CloudQuest anyway. 99p for members. Get it now.
Certainly should. Any particular games you delve back into in terms of classics or the older school ones? Because again, it's such a selection, but this is the first time you've been able to delve back into games of yesteryear as well.
Nothing extensively apart from Final Fantasy X. I did jump into a couple of different titles because I just wanted to hit like a different range of stuff. This is purely focused on the cloud stuff. The download stuff is just going to be what it is. You download it, it plays exactly as it would. So it's more the cloud element that I was looking into, but either on my PS4, PS5, or on my PC. And I've played a bit of Doom. I played a bit of Final Fantasy 12 as well, and Final Fantasy 7. So very different eras of games there. Ghost of Tsushima I thought was a really good like test case. Beyond that, I think we played a bit of Wreckfest, a couple of different things. I was kind of bouncing around for a couple of hours, just trying a few different stuff just to see how to put it through its paces.
Yeah, there's such a big section. And you said you did some cloud gaming. Did you download any titles, or was it just cloud on out?
I did download. The reason I did try the download option is because for me, I could see a very good use case where at times I'll play in the cloud. At times, if like I'm sat downstairs at my PS5, I'd like to be able to download the game and just get the absolute best performance I can. But then if I'm on the road, I'm with work or something, I might want to play in the cloud. I wanted to see how the saves worked. And where PS Now in the past when I tried it, there were basically two separate instances of the game. Saves just did not talk at all. You can now copy your saves between cloud and online storage. But if you've got PS Plus Premium, you've got online storage anyway. And for me, I have it auto backs up. So as soon as I close the game, my cloud saves, my saves go straight my saves go straight online. I'm trying to not use cloud for this where I typically would, but online, and then I can go in on the cloud version and copy that save across and vice versa. Yeah. So there's a little bit of you have to manually move them, but it's dead easy, dead quick, so it's fine.
That's good to know. I do think actually in your sentence there, you kind of summed it up that it's, for me, looking around and what I've seen on the internet is a lot of it's quite confusing for quite a lot of people, the way the categories are, especially on the console version, how there's multiple facets of like some are classic games, but classic games don't necessarily mean classic games as in like older titles. They are like cultivated PlayStation hits, but then there is Fallout in there and other older games and Xbox / titles and third-party stuff that I wouldn't deem, in my mind, if you said a PlayStation classic, they wouldn't come to mind at all. And then, yeah, you've got your PlayStation streaming, which is the PS3 ones predominantly. You and me found out, Richie, that when you do it on the PC version, they actually strip out a lot of those games and they're not accessible for some reason or other. Yeah. And, we're still waiting, of course, to see what the next PlayStation Plus free games are for the month, because they've announced now at the premium tier there's going to be 2 drops, so you get one set of games at the beginning of the month and then one halfway through. So we're still yet to see what the kind of big first drop is for the month of July. Who knows what that's going to look like, but it's mixed up a little bit, but there's so many avenues with extra, premium, essential. I was forgetting what the other tier was there. It's interesting, but you know what, mine renews in August. I tend to renew on the summer sales, when they drop like 20% off PlayStation Plus subscriptions. I buy into a year and it saves me 20%. So mine renews in August. So yeah, I've got like a month and a bit left to go before they take the £100 off me. But not too bad so far.
I'm not sure how mine ended up like on New Year's Eve, but it is. I might, if there's a decent sale in August, I might just buy a year there because you can just top up. So
yeah, that's another thing with the top ups, because they kind of froze people from going out to like Walmart or Tesco and buying loads of cards and just like applying them for several years, because when the change happened, people got upgraded automatically to the premium tier if you had PlayStation Now and Plus. So they kind of like play the game a little bit, and PlayStation put a bit of a stop on that one. Rob, how about you? First impressions of PlayStation Plus. You said you've been out the ecosystem for a while. You've had a slew of new games coming your way. How have you found just digging through it all, really?
So I've done it exclusively on PC, like completely kind of PlayStation hardware free, and streaming quality was fantastic. I barring the kind of the odd drop, which probably is more to do with my internet connection than the service itself, I have zero complaints about that. The area I feel like it's dropped the ball a bit is everything else. Well, everything else isn't really fair to say, but
Everything else.
no, it's
Stream quality's fine. Everything else sucks.
So like I think first of all, on PC there's no DualSense support, which just
Weird.
I don't know
right?
why, right? Like
I have a theory in that one is because the cloud streaming version, because you can only get the cloud streaming version on PC, you can't get the downloadable versions. The cloud streaming version doesn't incorporate PS5 into there, so they probably just haven't bothered, which I think is a stupid idea because you feel like the DualSense could just be backwards compatible all the way back to PS1 games without issue.
Yeah, it's
like the issue isn't.
The cloud seems to emulate a PS4, is what I've
and it
found.
also means you can sell more DualSenses, Sony.
Yeah, like so, like right off the bat, I had to download a kind of a third-party emulator, which kind of converts the DualSense input into DS4. So that was kind of the first off, and then it seems like the UK, in particular, has been a bit screwed when it comes to PS3 titles, which you can stream. Like the back catalogue's a hell of a lot smaller than like kind of the US gets, which is a bit disappointing, especially considering Resident Evil 4 is not on there, which was a big point of contention for me, really. But you know, like it's a new service. It's essentially opening weekend. It's going to evolve, you'd hope. If the stream quality's there, the other stuff's relatively easy to fix on top of that, I think.
Yeah, I think this has very much been a kind of a reaction to some point from what Game Pass was. And even though they've had several months now to make this reaction, you can almost sense in a lot of the word it is almost papering over the cracks with a lot of the streaming version. It's just PlayStation now where they've basically flipped the logo overnight to a point where on the PC version, I don't know if you guys noticed, but the yellow cross symbol actually kind of like overlaps with the PlayStation Plus title in the top left of the banner, like to a point where it looks like the graphic just hasn't sized correctly for what the layout is. And it's little things like that, plus the streaming and the PS5 content, which I'm sure will come further down the line. But we've knew for some time Sony in their cloud gaming infrastructure hasn't been the best, even though they acquired Gaikai a few years ago for millions and millions. Sony as a business does not have the infrastructure that Amazon, Microsoft, Google have. So it's no surprise that they may be lacking on this front, but definitely some tidying up to do. I have seen some discourse online with the lists being different across Asia, North America to Europe. Certain games have come, certain versions haven't. Some are running on the NTS version.
I wonder if there's some sort of weird licensing stuff that they're trying to figure out. One of the things, like Rob, you mentioned Fallout New Vegas. Before we went on the show, you said like you couldn't access New Vegas through the PS Plus app on PC.
Yeah.
I boot up my PS4 and it's there, and it's a streamed version as well. So some of these weirdness is like, well, if I can stream it on my PS4, why can't I stream it on my PC?
Yeah.
I don't get why there's a restriction in there, unless it is some sort of oversight on Sony's part, or they're still implementing stuff, or it's a licensing thing where they can't push it on PC. I have no idea, but
yeah,
I get the distinct impression that like kind of Microsoft have been kind of working on this ecosystem since kind of previous generations, and fair enough, they may have lost that console war then, but I think the kind of infrastructure they've put in place and the kind of the vision is maybe kind of paying off.
They're redefining the gaming industry because they effectively lost the last console generation. As much as I hate to say that, because I think it's stupid, they still made a hell of a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
And sold a lot of games and made a lot of people very happy with the service, but they've basically like, okay, we're going to start redefining the industry in our own image here, and everyone else is now going to have to keep up with us.
Yeah, they very much spent the last part of a decade in the Xbox One generation just moving the chess pieces around in preparation for the future, and the way they've embraced cloud gaming and Game Pass subscription models and just adding everything and buying studios, it's insane. But again, Microsoft has that wealth in the bank already, not as strong as it's actually stronger than a lot of what Sony has. But yeah, the games offering's fantastic. Obviously, the Ubisoft Classics are in there, so there are a couple of Ubisoft Plus games. If you do want a bit more information on these particular kind of in-depth looks on the PC version of it, as Richie alluded to, CloudQuest's episode this week, we go absolutely in-depth for about 35 minutes about impressions and some of the things we've discussed already on this very show. So interesting to see. I'm just looking forward to diving into just more games. I checked out Ape Escape was the one I went back to with the PlayStation 5 trophy list. Jeff will be proud of me.
I went back to classic games.
Yeah, I mean that's nostalgia. That's one of the pulls of PlayStation Plus, right? It's all those older titles. Bit disappointed by the back catalogue of classic games. I really expected it to launch this with a ton of PS1, PS2, and it's essentially the PS2 remasters we had from the PS4 generation. So like Red Faction, War of the Monsters, like they were already purchasable on PS4 and PS5. Nothing new there. Like the GTA remasters them as well. I expected them to, like, for some reason in my mind, come out with 100 plus games that I've never been able to purchase since like the 90s, and that's not the case. So there's time for that. There's room to improve and add more titles, and I'm sure they'll have like big tentpole releases. But there is some interesting ones. I jumped into Toy Story 2 for the first time in like 15, 20 years as well. Plays surprisingly well. No trophies though, so that's kind of like, should I be bothered? But Ape Escape is one of those alongside Siphon Filter that's launched with trophies. So Jeff would be proud of me. I'm trying to go and get that platinum. That game is awkward as hell. Like I actually remember not liking Ape Escape first time round because it would only work with analog sticks. So at the time, obviously, we had things like Crash Bandicoot and stuff, and it was all directional D-pad. I remember as a kid being frustrated at Ape Escape because I didn't know how the dual sticks worked. Like it just, my brain hadn't been coached on it yet. And now we just take it for granted that you pick up and you default to the sticks. But back then, as a 6-7-year-old kid, I mean, actually came out probably 99, so yeah, about 9-year-old. I'd never seen dual shock sticks in my life, and it threw me for a loop. And even 20 odd years later, I now have the same problem, but in reverse, where it's so old and unresponsive to the sticks. But it's funny. It's funny all the same. The game is so comically 90s. It's worth checking out just for a laugh.
So here's something 90s about Ape Escape. So I rented Ape Escape from Blockbuster. I didn't have like the analog PS controller at the time, so I brought it home, put it in, couldn't play it whatsoever. Just the point blank refused.
Stands there on the main screen.
Yeah, that's all it did. It didn't even have like an error message saying, because I don't think they'd anticipated a kid renting it from Blockbuster who didn't have an analog controller.
The system's probably not sophisticated enough to realise that you had the wrong controller plugged in.
No,
yeah,
definitely not.
That was such a waste of £2.50 for the 48-hour hire.
Well, now just think, Rob. Though now in hindsight, decades later, you can now go back with your modified DualSense 5 that doesn't work because PlayStation have compatibility problems again, ironically enough, and then you can jump back in and test it out. But yeah, it's funny. I remember liking it a little bit because he has a lightsaber, or it's called like a stun baton or something, and a net and other gadgets. But I'm waiting to that point in the game I'm going to reach where the child version of me, never got past that point. And my brain's going to go, oh, nostalgia. What the hell is going on here? I don't remember any of this, and whether it still has its monkey paws in me or not. So we'll see. But yeah, definitely got to check out a few more. Siphon Filter, not really up my street, even though it has trophies. It's like Ape Escape's got that like cartoon allure, whereas Siphon Filter's taking itself as like a serious stealth espionage game. And when your elbow looks like a block of cheese, it doesn't really play as smoothly.
Yeah. My thing with trophies is I have to like the game first. I just because the game like has trophies doesn't mean I'm going to jump into it. If I like the game, then I'll consider like trophy hunting in it. But
okay, well, how do you know if you like it if you don't check it out though?
Well, yeah, I might check it out. But if I take a look at a game, that's not for me. But it has trophies. The trophies don't mean anything
Jeff was here this week. If only Jeff was here this week. To be fair, it takes about 4 hours to platinum, I believe. So it's not like going to suck my life and soul away from me to catch these damn apes. But we'll get more of that, no doubt. I'll give you updates on every new show. Moving on, though, gentlemen, from PlayStation Plus, we'll move to our second story of the week. We got a leak from Ubisoft that the long-awaited in-development game Skull and Bones is set to be re-revealed next month. So rumour has it the long-awaited pirate game, of course, the spin-off from Assassin's Creed Black Flag, which seems like an eternity ago in its own right, is now finally on the cusp of being re-released and showcased. We did have a leak a few weeks ago, some actual gameplay footage showcasing the boat mechanics and some of the naval combat, but it does look like it is primed for the week commencing 4th of July due to some leaks from VGC. Details on what will be revealed are vague, but it is understood that Ubisoft are looking to confirm the release date imminently and share some additional details. Now, we should point out we've not actually had a Ubisoft Forward showcase event this year yet, and we are in peak summer. They skipped out on Summer Games Fest. E3 wasn't a thing. We've had PlayStation conferences, Xbox, all over the place. And Ubisoft, albeit being one of the biggest third-party game companies on the planet, they've been very quiet this year. Richie, I'll throw it over to you. We've discussed Skull and Bones on the Sounds of Stadia podcast quite a few times now because it actually had an ESRB rating last week for Stadia, PlayStation, and Xbox. It's next-gen only. Richie, do you think we're finally going to get to see what the hell these pirates have been up to for the last 7 or 8 years?
Yes, but I've got a feeling this is going to be somewhat underwhelming. Ubisoft have openly gone in the direction where they're pushing more online, persistent world, multiplayer experiences, and I think that's what this game's going to be, and I have very little interest in it, to be perfectly honest. With a game that's been in development hell as well, it just feels like, oh, maybe this is... I hope I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. I just get a feeling they might be just putting this out to die. Like, we're sick of working on this. We're sick of trying to get this a good game. Let's just put it out, either sinks or swims. Like,
yeah, it's an
there's probably a better analogy in terms of using like a boating pun in there. Yeah,
but there's certainly something to be said about a game taking this long to make. I'm sure it's gone through multiple revisions as the gaming landscape has evolved and changed. I mean, when this game first went into development, Fortnite wasn't even a thing. Battle Royales weren't a thing, and you're totally right. Like that's how long. I mean, Rob, you played Assassin's Creed Black Flag, I believe, right?
Yeah, I loved it. It was fantastic.
Does this do anything for you then? Several years later, pirates, online multiplayer with your friends.
Like, I think the concept's great, and I'm kind of cautious with Richie, where it's been stuck in development hell for a while now. But then I think the model like Ubisoft used to produce games, they all kind of have the same feel and the same kind of bare bones, if you want to say it like that. So I'm hoping as kind of that kind of formula has progressed, this game's kind of progressed along with it as well, so it won't suffer kind of like the Duke Nukem kind of effect where it just seemed so vastly dated by the time it came out that it's irrelevant. So
I don't think it's going to suffer the Duke Nukem effect, to be honest, because Duke Nukem was very much a product of its time in terms of the comedy and the themes.
Not necessarily.
This was probably a bit better.
Not necessarily the themes, more of even the feel of Duke Nukem Forever was a bit dated. It felt very PS3 kind of shooter. I don't think this game will suffer from the same issues in that regard, but it's been the fact that we've had to announce it as a re-reveal.
Yeah,
says it all, really, right?
Yeah, it's not the original game.
It was originally slated to come out in 2019, so it should have been out 3 years ago.
It's crazy, isn't it? But I do think there's something to be said about...
That's a lifetime, right?
Yeah, it really is. If you're a pirate, you'd probably be dead in that time frame because you wouldn't survive very long. But the
Age of Sail probably lasted less time than this.
But there's something to be said, I think, about the Ubisoft kind of copy and paste model they follow with a lot of their games, and I think it will reflect quite a lot of what we see in things like The Division currently and other kind of massive open worlds. Like, again, Assassin's Creed are the bones of this game, so it should play in theory really well. I know that they added in the kind of gameplay leak that there's a bit more to do with your character and your home base, where you're actually running around in third person. So I think the initial kind of feedback has made them think we need to do more than just naval combat, and I do hope it has some kind of pirate story narrative written throughout, because Richie, I think you've mentioned a few times that if they just gave me an Assassin's Creed-esque game with a single player narrative campaign and
Pirates Creed,
and just an absolute spin-off, that would work wonders. But because they've doubled down on this online multiplayer constantly connected world, it does kind of lose its allure for me as someone who doesn't have as much time to commit and plunder hundreds of hours of gameplay into it. But I guess we won't have to wait long.
I mean, I've talked about it before in other shows, but my thing with Ubisoft going in this multiplayer online direction, it feels like they're just pursuing cash at all expense of the
Plunder.
game. I feel like that this is just going to become a platform to sell season passes and NFTs and shit like that.
Okay, so on the back of that, do you think this will now go free to play as opposed to a $70, £70 game? They've already spent millions on it, so now is the toss of the coin where will the game benefit from being free to play as opposed to a purchasable title?
It depends on the scope. If they've had a lot of more single player story narrative elements to it, then no. If it is literally just an online ship battle simulator effectively, then maybe. The thing is, I think Ubisoft might be concerned with how long it's been in development, and it is a bit of a controversial direction the company's going in when they've been predominantly known for the single player experiences for a long time. I wonder if they might be worried that people might just go and just shrug it off and move on.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic, and I think to look at Microsoft's Sea of Thieves, that's doing one. I think that's up to season 7 or season 8, and that's getting all the plaudits now for how it was well reviewed initially, but the fact that Rare and Microsoft have supported it so long now, it seems to have this absolutely booming community around it, and even to a point where again, don't have Xbox, don't have Game Pass currently, but if I checked into Game Pass, that would be one of the first titles I'd want to check out just because of all the buzz and excitement I hear around it. So there is a space for pirates.
If you're playing Sea of Thieves, this game's probably interested you, but in the way of we've seen with a lot of new battle royales, when a new battle royale comes out, people jump off Fortnite, jump off Warzone, try it out, and then end up going back to where they were. This could be one of them situations with the Sea of Thieves crew where they move. Oh, we'll go try out this new pirate game and go. We'll like what we were doing anyway.
Certainly.
I'm concerned about this game, but Ubisoft, feel free to prove me wrong when you reveal it.
Yeah, hopefully not too long. I'm hoping we get a Ubisoft Forward that's more than just this game. I do feel like Ubisoft haven't really got anything slated for the future that really excites me. I mean, yeah, we don't know what's happening with that. We don't know what's happening with... we haven't heard much about Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora yet. They've got the Division Heartlands game coming out. There's X-Defiant, which was revealed, absolutely panned online, and then they've gone into stealth mode out the way now. So there's a lot of stuff. The Prince of Persia remake got pushed back as well. That's indefinitely on hold. So I just feel like we don't really know what Ubisoft have got close to their chest right now, and I think going so long throughout the year being quiet, they're probably due some kind of showcase. So I do hope it is more than just a re-reveal of one game. It's an actual multitude of what's in the pipeline for the end of this year and inwards to next. But hopefully not too long. July is just around the corner, gents, so we'll find out that all too soon. Another thing that is right around the corner is Gamescom, so the biggest gaming convention in Europe. Usually arrives in Cologne, Germany later this year in around the mid to end of August time. And Sony have made the decision to not attend this year, which is always interesting because they've had quite a big presence over the last, not the last several years, COVID pandemic aside. They're not attending, so they don't really attend E3 things anymore. They were one of the first big companies to pull out of E3, which is probably since it impacted its demise. Gamescom is one of those, I think, as us three, we would probably more likely get to than an E3 with it being in Europe. However, does Sony not being there matter anymore? The way the landscape's shifted to everything digital? Richie, does this bother you?
I think it matters for Gamescom. Because this is again, going back to some Games Fest, there's a lot of companies kind of just took a pass on that one. E3 wasn't about game. If companies are pulling out of Gamescom, I think this might be effectively of two things. One, the pandemic delaying everything, so companies have less to show. And two, because of the pandemic, companies started focus on pushing their own things like State of Play, like Nintendo Directs, and things of that, Ubisoft Forwards, things of that nature. So companies realised that actually we can just take control of this narrative ourselves entirely. We don't need to wait for a big press event to get the message out there. If we decide to do, if Sony decide to do a State of Play, people will turn up for it. And then you're completely control of what that is. So I think there might be a bit of that going about. Again, it's also quite close to Summer Games Fest.
Yeah.
Are they just cannibalising each other at this point? If there's not as much to show, is it just a case of, because I imagine in the past, with E3 being a physical event, it might have been a case of, hey, he's E3, and a lot of the same stuff would turn up at Gamescom as well. But when it goes digital, then there's no real need to have it in both places.
Yeah, I think it's just a shame from the stage presence, physical, like a Comic-Con kind of thing, where fans actually get to go and be part of their passion. Because I think with gaming, it's very nebulous in the fact that it's spent usually in your living room, in your mum and dad's basement, wherever it might be, on a screen with a headset on. And I think it's one of the rare times that we get to go out and actually celebrate. And I've never been to a gaming convention myself, but it's something I'd always like to do at some point in my life. And I think as the world pivots towards this digital pre-pandemic state, and these bigger companies, like you said, realise that they don't need to spend money. Nintendo aren't there this year. Microsoft probably won't be because they've just had their big showcase. So far, Gamescom 2022. Bear in mind, in the past, it's had all the big three and all the developers and publishers, Ubisoft, EA, they've all been there at several different years. So far for Gamescom 2022, they've got Bandai Namco and the Embracer Group confirmed to be taking part. That's an awfully muted lineup compared to previous years. And I think it's just a shame because Gamescom, there's literally hundreds of thousands of people flood to Cologne in Germany to enjoy this kind of celebration and hear some news and get to play some games. And it feels like now it might just become a glorified convention rather than anything relevant, which is a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame, but that seems to be the way things are moving. If companies don't have to spend out the hundreds of thousands of pounds to actually attend these in any meaningful way, are they going to do it? Can they justify it financially? Just to effectively, it becomes a very expensive fan event for them.
Yeah, very true, very true. So yes, moving on to other news, we also had the final release after the teaser gameplay trailer at the Xbox Showcase. We finally got the revealed date of A Plague Tale Requiem, the sequel to A Plague Tale Innocence, the third-person action-adventure game set in Renaissance France during the plague. And I can't wait for this one, gentlemen. 18th of October from Asobo Studios and Focus Entertainment, the publishers. They've announced a sequel with more gameplay involved, more stealth mechanics, more action, and some more puzzles that involve rats. I really enjoyed this one. I think it's a fantastic little game. It's very reminiscent of The Last of Us in terms of the colour palette and the tone, but it does have a very vibrant kind of, not sci-fi.
The Rats of Us.
The Rats of Us. It's got a very... what's the word I'm looking for? These rats are not normal rats. It's very much cranked up to I want to say a sci-fi, but it's not sci-fi. Fantasy, high. These rats are crazy sentient beings who are looking to take over the world, it almost seems. But Richie, have you played this game before, or have you checked it out briefly? I feel like I've spoke to you about it, but I can't remember if it's on your list, but you've not got around to it.
I can't remember whether we spoke about it on content or not, but I actually do need... I think that might be something I should jump into, actually, of Plague Tale Innocence, because I've never played it. I've heard of it before, but when you hear something and it's so it's on your radar at the time, and then you just don't pay enough attention. But I remember watching the trailer for Requiem, I was like, this looks pretty cool. It's I should check this out. So I think at some point I will jump into Innocence.
Yeah, well, Innocence was a free PlayStation Plus game a few months ago, and that's why I checked it out, because it was in my library already. But to kind of paint the scene of what it is, it's a there's something going on in a small town in France in kind of around the plague year, so hundreds and hundreds of years ago, and your Amicia is a young French girl, and she's got to look after her little brother Hugo, but something's quite not right with Hugo, and it kind of links in with the rats and something like that, and you basically have to... It's a lot of stealth-based things, but you've got to use distractions to get away from guards and escape and go through puzzle solving, move fire around to get the rats to move in a certain way so you can get past them, and you got to trick the rats into killing people who you're too weak to attack yourself. A full knight in armor as a small young girl you wouldn't be able to take down, so you've got to utilize your environment to do it. It tells a really good story. It's about 8 hours, I'd probably say, the campaign. Graphics look absolutely stunning, and I can't wait for the sequel. It's interesting because I hadn't really knew much about the game up until this year, and now it's one of those perfect scenarios where you're super hyped for the sequel, and it's out imminently just after finishing the first one. So if you're ever going to jump in, Richie, I'd say now is the perfect time. Yeah.
It doesn't appear to be on the PC version of PlayStation Plus.
It does not. So jump onto your good old PS5. Or PS4.
I should have it already. Yeah,
it should be somewhere. Rob, how are you with rats?
Not the best. I can't say we're particularly good chums. But Yeah, I played the game for a couple of hours. It'll been a while back now. I loved the mechanics. I thought they were kind of really well thought out, and it was just a solid game. I didn't get too far into it. I think only an hour or two, simply because I'd been playing like a couple of different games with like a similar kind of very, what's the word, kind of somber theme and kind of feel to it, and I just wanted something a bit different at the time, and I never went back into it. But yeah, definitely. This is on my radar.
Yeah, a bit more lightheartedness. There is definitely that. Like, that's kind of probably why I'm echoing The Last of Us a little bit, because it is very much like a somber tone. Like, the world has gone to shit in France in this position. It's not, everything's not nice and sweet and rainbows. There's pigs' bodies exploding with rats pouring out of them, and family and friends are dying all over the place. And you've got to kind of navigate your way through that world as a young innocent child with her even younger brother. So it does add an element
super
of
impressive as a game.
but
it sounds like where we're from.
But it does tell a really good story, and I think that was the big thing that like surprised me, was how good the storytelling is in it. So can't wait for the next one, the follow up to that one. Moving on to a big story of the week. This one's for you, Richie. Final Fantasy 16 will not have an open world, unlike previous versions of the game. So the producer, Nakai Yoshida, came out and confirmed in an interview with IGN this week that he's took open world inspiration from previous titles, but they want to create an extensive world that people can jump into that focuses on the story rather than spanning an entire open world. And he said the open world design limits us to a single open world space rather than focusing on independent area-based game design that can give players a better feel of a truly global scale. So it sounds like the vibe I'm getting is similar to the Tomb Raider games, where they are very much open world, but they're a bit more linear in the terms of it allows you to tell a better story. But you are the Final Fantasy guy, with Jeff not being here. You've played through several versions of them. What does this mean to you, it not being open world? Does this take...
This is some of the best news I've heard about this game so far.
Okay.
Honestly, open world is one of them mechanics that feels like it's so overplayed. Most open worlds are pretty boring, to be honest. Some open worlds are fantastic. Most of them are just empty space. And Final Fantasy, for me, it's the games that are really narrative focused, so not having to just fill this world with stuff to do so you can really focus in on the narrative is a fantastic decision. There's so many, I think, open world games. Like, I think of Horizon Forbidden West, where the open world was bigger than it needed to be, and while you're off doing side missions or doing collectibles and stuff, it takes you away from the actual story. So sometimes the pacing just falls apart a bit, where if there seems like they're going for an open area based approach, similar to something like Tales of Arise and previous Final Fantasies, like, well, I put 10 at the moment, where you go into an area and that area is then open, but it's kind of condensed to these borders, and then you have an area transition, which I actually also think is less intimidating. Sometimes when you go in open worlds, like, there's so much to do here, you end up doing nothing.
Yeah. Similar to PlayStation
so
Plus.
I absolutely adore this decision. Like, I really do. It's like, it's probably one of the best decisions it could make. Not everything has to be open world.
Yeah.
And I think since Skyrim, there's always been a push from publishers. Things need to be open world. Need to be open world. Need to figure out how to make this open world, when sometimes it's been to the detriment of the game.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I think reading on further in the article, it does say that Final Fantasy 16 is set in a new world of Valisthea, and it's going to comprise of 6 regions. So already the 6 regions seems like a good way to break down the world into more bite-sized chunks. And it goes on the article to say that, again, haven't played Final Fantasy 15, but apparently it was criticised a little bit for having a bland open world that felt quite empty. So moving this direction, telling a more comprehensive story seems better. And if you like an ice cream, just check out Richie's Street to pick that up. I saw me and Rob smile at ourselves halfway through that, because the guys on video feed won't actually see it, but there was a point in that where I was like, I could go for an ice cream about now, but I can picture
sorry about that, guys.
I can picture the cogs in Richie's head thinking, will my microphone pick up the...
It did. It definitely did. I saw it in there, Trace.
You saw it pick it up in
but
the
yeah,
audio.
with Final Fantasy 15 is a weird game where you have this massive open world, but after you kind of do the open world part of the game, which is probably about the first half of the game, it goes very linear. after that point. So it's kind of like it felt forced, the open world, rather than natural.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of games have a tendency to say kind of, oh, there's kind of 200 hours of content or whatever, but there's no real focus on if it's quality content or not. It's like collecting the fifth set of 100 different items. What's the point, right?
The thing is, I sound quite negative on open worlds. I think open worlds games can be amazing if they done right. Like I mentioned Skyrim. Skyrim's open world is like for that style of game where it's very much this is your character, you go into this world and tell the story that you want to play. It needs to be open world. But when it's like I'm playing this very strict character through a narrative, just keep it nice and tight. You look at how well things like Uncharted have done in the past. Well, Uncharted 4, there's open world section, and Lost Legacy, there's open area sections in that game, which are really cool.
Yeah.
But imagine if you try to make Uncharted an open world, it just feels wrong.
Yeah, you lose that storytelling ability because people
it's
can
the
do
cadence
what
of
they
the
want.
narrative. Sometimes an open world just kills.
Yeah, completely agree with you. And as Final Fantasy 16 is one of the ones that it's possibly my jumping on point. I'm glad to hear that they're looking to refine the open nature a little bit more. So, hope not too long to wait. Hopefully as well for that one.
I like his comments as well. What he's just went. This is why we're not making it open world.
Yeah, quite nice and clear to the point. Another individual this week who was quite nice and clear to the point was none other than skateboarding legend Tony Hawk. Why did I say Hawks? There's two of them now. This week he was interviewed. He was doing some just normal press conversation, and someone asked him about the recent release, of course, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 remake. Received very, very well. And there always has been rumours about Pro Skater 3 and 4 remake. And he basically just straight up turned around and said, they were working on it, they were ready to go during the interview. And that was the plan, was to remaster and bundle 3 and 4 together. That was the plan until Vicarious Visions, the developers for part of Activision, got absorbed and they were moving developers over to other teams. Of course, we know now they got added over to help with, I think it was Diablo and Call of Duty support, and they basically folded them.
It wasn't Call of Duty. They got absorbed into Blizzard and
Right.
Worked on Diablo 2 Resurrected.
So, which by the sounds of Tony Hawk said, that's pretty much just put an end to this one. And Richie, you again.
Can I have a rant?
Yeah, I mean, you played 1 and 2 remake, didn't you? So
Right.
go for it.
So here's what Activision have done. Tony Hawk's 1 and 2 came out, absolutely nailed it. Well reviewed games, sold well, fantastic. Activision Blizzard, in their infinite wisdom, went, Vicarious Visions. This is a good studio. They've worked the Tony Hawk's 1 and 2, knocked out the park. Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, knocked out the park. Let's make them a support studio for Blizzard. And then we'll take pictures for other developers to make Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4, because we still want to do that. It's like, why wouldn't you just let Vicarious Visions make Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4 and find someone else to be a support studio for Blizzard? It just seems such... It just annoys me so much because you got this talented team who've done a fantastic job. They want to keep going. Everyone seems to want to do this. Mm-hmm. Apart from Activision going, well, but we need to get them working on our premium titles like Blizzard stuff, like Diablo, a remake of an old Diablo game. They've probably worked on Diablo Immortal, and it's just like, seriously, Activision, just fuck off.
Well,
like, why do this to yourself?
Yeah, it's an interesting business practice that you can have so much money and garner so much respect from like these remakes and remasters. Because like you said, they've done the same thing with Toys for Bob, who just put out the fantastic Crash Bandicoot 4, an amazing throwback, and now they're a support studio for Warzone. And now the Call of Duty
support studio.
And it's like if you're a developer making games and like you've got a job at that studio and you're like, oh, I get to make Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon and remakes. And like, I know it's not necessarily new stuff, but I feel like if you then suddenly pulled on to doing a Modern Warfare shooter, it's kind of like a different genre and feel that you're probably really into gaming for.
Yeah, it annoys me because you're taking these talented developers and going, oh, you guys are good, we're going to put you on our biggest project, our biggest titles as a sports studio, rather than going, you guys are good, keep doing your thing.
Yeah, it's a shame.
I'd love to know the numbers of people left.
Yeah.
Like, Because if you're working on Vicarious Visions, you're passionate about Tony Hawk's, and suddenly now you're working on Diablo Immortal.
Yeah, I mean the two co-founders of Toys for Bob have left in 2022 to create their own independent studio. So
Vicarious Visions isn't even called Vicarious Visions anymore. It's Blizzard Albany.
That's such a bad
These studios are gone. They're not going to be what they ever were.
I do feel though Microsoft, in their infinite wisdom, since purchasing or pushing through with purchasing Activision Blizzard, I feel like that's such a good PR win. Even though the staff have probably left and done elsewhere and moved on to other projects, to just turn around and say, look, we're bringing them both back. One's making a new Crash Bandicoot game, one's working on Tony Hawk's, and just the goodwill garnered from the sheer resurrection will be a big tick in Xbox's window for me.
Yeah. You know what I'd do if I was Phil Spencer? I'd go Activision and go, right, once the takeover's done, right, you guys are making Call of Duty and that's it. All your IP we're taking off you. They're going to just come Microsoft Studios stuff. We're going to take pictures from all of our developers. Who wants to work with this IP? Crack on. So you get things like Spyro, Crash, you get Tony Hawk's, or even Skylanders. And Activision are just going to be the Call of Duty publisher.
Yeah.
And then
go ahead.
And then like things like, I think Toys for Bob, that studio is now just Call of Duty. I don't think you could go for a redemption arc, but you're just better off at this point just making a new studio probably.
The Crash Bandicoot 4 is so good though.
Yeah, but just if Microsoft just take that IP off Activision once they own it, then you could get Crash 5, just not published by Activision. It's fine.
It is interesting in the Microsoft world. There's a chance that Rare of Banjo-Kazooie fame could be given Spyro or Crash Bandicoot to make a brand new game for. It's like what a talk about going full circle from like inspiration and
give it
back in.
Take Rare back to their roots.
It's crazy, but more on that I'm sure in the future when we finally see what happens with that acquisition going through, and maybe Tony Hawk will skate again one day. Of course, we do have Skate 4.
We do. I've never played any Skate games though, so I don't really have any touchstone to that.
Well, maybe this
Skate 3 is legendary for its unpredictability with the physics engine. So much it became like a meme of. It was, I think, the game app when it released was more fun than the game when they actually repaired it, and so I thought the Skate franchise was dead, but I'm happy that's Skate 4.
It's been long enough, Rob.
For a long time.
It's been long enough that people have nostalgia for it, and then actually the way it was revealed, I believe, is the EA literally got two guys who used to work on it to stand there, no kind of concept art, nothing like that, and they're basically just, I think they've been pestered that much online. All they did during one of the EA Plays, I think not last summer, it must have been before COVID, they just came out and addressed the camera and went, we're making Skate, we're making a reboot, like leave us alone, like we'll get onto it when we are. And then it's been now several years and it's due for a full announcement, possibly later this summer. But you gotta laugh. Nostalgia is a powerful thing, just like it is with our next story of the week. Sonic Origins released, packaging 1, 2 and 3 together in one ultimate collection. Not that we've had any collections like this before, but it's getting some early reviews coming in. It's around about the 8 mark, I'd probably say on average. Reading from some of the reviews, you've got Push Square, give it a 7 out of 10. PlayStation Universe, 9.5 out of 10. GamesView, 9 out of 10. Game Informer, 8.5. 8 out of 10, 7, 10, and 6.5 from Destructoid. Richie, you said you were probably going to buy this one. Is it still on your list come payday?
It's not a day one purchase. So the games are evergreen, so there's no absolute desperate desire for me to get this day one. Like the pre-order bonuses are just the weird structured like different tiers of purchasing was kind of weird. Stuff like oh yeah, if you go for this tier, you can get menu animations and stuff. It's just kind of odd.
Yeah,
there's been a few things come out with a few music tracks that were always rumored to be written by Michael Jackson, have been pulled from the game for like licensing reasons.
And
although I don't know if that's a deal breaker. I don't think it will be as long as it's not every track. But yeah, I mean, I'll probably pick this up at some point. I do think it's priced maybe a little bit too high.
that's where I sit on it. These are games I've probably bought 3 or 4 times over at this point in my life, and what really just put me off them was all of that weird business practice of, if you buy this deluxe version for an extra £5 or £6, you get animations on the title screen. It's like, fuck off, Sega. I was like, we've had animations on the title screen since the very first one when he pops out and gives you a thumbs up. It's egregious business practices that aren't required in an old collection of games.
What I don't really know is because I've probably got all these games on various platforms over the years that I could still pick up and play now. I think I've got them on my 3DS, or at least some of them. I can't remember, but what is there? Is there enough? What is the reason to buy the remastered versions? Because the older games play absolutely fine.
It's just more refined, isn't it? Really, like they've I think up-resed everything from the ground up for like widescreen TVs, 4K, like all the kind of like colours and stuff. But I did notice this week, I think it's Cannon Head, the guys who did Sonic Mania, they helped with the port of Sonic 3 in this one because it hadn't been done before in a while. And one of the developers was quite active on Twitter this past week, saying basically they weren't happy with the version they handed over to Sega. They asked for an extension. They wanted more time to tweak it and work on it for bugs and glitches, and they weren't given that time. So it was just handed over in a state that the developers' headcanon didn't. They weren't comfortable with it, and it just makes me think like I've heard a couple of things that I'm now dissuading me away from purchasing it. I'll definitely pick it up at some point, but I do think you're right. The initial launch price it's too much. Nostalgia can overwhelm a lot of things. Budgetary constraints in the world we live in today, not one of them at this moment in time.
Well, there's things like the classic music pack is DLC. Like, I'm sorry, the classic music pack for these games should be just part of the game. If there's reorchestrated versions, fine, but the classic music should be there. Yeah. I don't know. It just feels like Sega making some weird decisions that kind of went from, oh my god, I'm excited, I want to play these games again, give me them now, to I'm going to sit and wait.
Yeah, patience is a virtue. Sitting 80 on Metacritic as of the time of this show recording. Rob, what's your history with Sonic? Are you a big Sonic guy? Because you had Nintendos, as far as I recall, as a child.
So I did, but the very, very first console I had was the Sega Mega Drive. And Sonic was like a really big part of me, like kind of my early gaming career. But I think I say career.
All the millions you've made playing video games.
Oh yeah, making video games. But I think it goes back to the fact that when you were a kid, you had 4 or 5 games which you just played like until it didn't work anymore, really. And I think Sonic number 2 was one of them for me. So I absolutely hammered it as a kid, but when I look back, I realised that was maybe a year or two, and it was only Sonic number 2. So I'm going to skip this game, to be fair. Again, the price point just doesn't really match up to an experience I've largely had already.
I feel it's destined to end up on a subscription service, either PS Plus, Xbox Game Pass, something like that. Or it will be like you'll get at some point in a year's time, you'll be able to get it on the sale for like a tenner. In that case, it's like, I'll drop a tenner on it, and then for the nostalgia to have, but...
Yeah. I get that. I get that sentiment, especially. Of course, Sonic's still back in the popular culture right now. He was in Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers recently as Ugly Sonic. He's got Sonic 2's Jim Carrey's highest-grossing movie of all time, which is Jim Carrey's amazing career. It's crazy to think Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is his kind of like pinnacle for I
haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it yet either, but I definitely would. It's better than the first, apparently, and I enjoyed the first one, so... We'll have to. Is it still in cinemas or is it out now on home release?
It must be gone now.
It must be, surely.
No
we
idea.
still need to see Top Gun, to be fair, as well. But we digress. The Blue Blur, it looks like it's still around forever. Of course, we've got Sonic Frontiers coming out later this year. Interested to see how that game's going to be received, because it's getting a bit of stick for its empty, void open worlds. Kind of similar to what we talked about with Final Fantasy. So we'll keep an eye on that one, and we'll get some updates on Sonic Frontiers in the future. But for now, if you want to pick up Sonic Origins, it's available to download and play. Final story of the week, a nice little fun one I wanted to throw out to you guys. There's a YouTuber, DIY Fixes, which I checked out a couple of videos on his channel. Actually, he's done some amazing stuff over there, really, really popular. Somehow never came across him on YouTube before, even though I follow loads of YouTube tech channels. This guy made a smaller than 2 centimeter thick PlayStation 5. So this is the world's first PlayStation 5 Slim, in a weird way. The video is about 20 minutes long. He basically takes it apart bit by bit, redirects the cooling liquid. He installs the different fan mechanics. He uses a brass and copper outer frame to essentially strip everything down to the slimmest PlayStation 5 you'll possibly see. And the reason I wanted to bring it up is it's a great video anyway. But I want to throw it over to you guys and just think, like, a PlayStation 5 Slim or a Pro model, is it on the horizon anytime soon? Because we're 2 years into the PS5. It's out there, it's in the wild when you can get your hands on one. It's a chunky boy, this one. It's the biggest thing I've ever had sat in my entertainment system in my living room. And the Slim models, they are quite nice and sexy. I've had a few over the years. Rob, what do you think for a PS5 Slim? Is it too soon?
No, well, from practical terms, yeah, it's way too soon because Sony still haven't kind of got a handle on the manufacture of the standard model. But please, God, give me a slimline PS5 or just anything that's not this awful design. I know it's divisive and some people like it, some people hate it. I despise it. It's the reason I prefer to stream on PC for PlayStation games, because I don't want that abomination clipping off my desk.
Well, the early 2000s Wi-Fi router not doing it for you?
No, it's like someone's taken a Wi-Fi router and then wrapped an old A4 bind around it and then called it a day. Like, God, I hate the design so much.
Is it the white that's so aggressive for you, or is it the shape and size?
It's everything
together.
It's like...
I'm with Rob on this. I think the PS5 is one of the ugliest consoles I've ever seen. The thing is, as an adult gamer, yes, I'm a gamer, I'm a pro gamer. I don't want sometimes my living room to just scream, "This guy's a gamer!" A bit of subtlety, guys. Like the PS4 was actually quite subtle.
Yeah.
Like, you could put in your media console, and it's fine. People go, "Oh, you got PS4 there." When someone walks into your living room now, they go, "That guy's got a PS5," because you can see it from across the street.
It's bigger than the TV.
It's horrible. It looks ugly. I don't like the two-tone white and black. The shape is ridiculous. And looking at this DIY Perks' Slimline, the one he's made, it's just like a square black and copper box. It looks actually kind of like discreet and quite kind of classy. Mm-hmm. It's like, I give me that.
Yeah, you should
imagine if
check the video out.
Yeah, like for Chris, like if me and you were single and like Richard, if you were to bring a girl home to your house and like the living room, you open the living room and she saw that just on the shelf, like
you can't hide it either.
No, it's like
cooling.
It's just
this guy means business. That's what it's about. It's a statement piece in your living room. Again on the reveal, I was a bit taken aback by it, like that futuristic, like space approach almost with all of the white. It's grown on me a little bit since I've had it in my living room. It's kind of it became part of the furniture, as it usually does. After like a week or two, you kind of forget it's even there. But mine is tucked away in a bookshelf because it wouldn't fit in my normal horizontal way where I've got the TV box and the DVD player kind of set up. It did fit in, but to a point where it looked like it was uncomfortable. Like it was like squished in there against all the boxes.
It would have had with like airflow.
It would
have
done. Like... So I took it out, removed some of my kind of like the big books that we've got on our bookshelf, and it's stood up right now, but it's still snug in there. However, the revisions, when I think back over the years, like my PS2 Slim was like a feat of engineering. When I think back, like the original PS2 down to just that, essentially just an A5 book. And you could, like, I used to take it around friends' houses in my back pocket of my jeans. That's how slim that boy was, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's probably lighter than some laptops, right?
Oh, 100%. And it did its job, and it still works to this day, which is fantastic. I should say, the 2 centimeter one that this guy's made on YouTube, DIY Perks, it does have quite a substantial power brick. And by substantial, I mean he's pretty much put everything he couldn't fit into the console into this power brick. It is I'm trying to think what household item would be the size of this power brick.
It's like the 360 power brick, which
No.
is basically a second
Is it
console.
like the size of your PS1 behind you?
It's bigger. It's essentially
Oh, wow.
if you took he's designed it into like a big. It's almost like a meter ruler. If it was a breeze block thickness.
I mean,
Does
that's
any
not a power
components
brick,
in
that's
there
just-
need cooling? Because then that could just be hidden. You can hide something like that.
Yeah, I mean, check out the video. It's, like I said, it's definitely worth a look at, and the rest of the channel is fantastic. He does an invisible PC desk on one of them, which is basically the PC components, the GPU, the fans, everything. They're built into his wooden desk, so all it is the monitor on the desk, and it looks gorgeous. So definitely worth checking out. But yeah, PS5 Slim. I think what you said, Rob, it's too soon because they haven't even sorted out the shipments of the current model yet.
I don't think it's too soon. I think because of how ugly and divisive the PS5 is in terms of looks, I think you just go for it.
So you think you just want a different SKU out just to sell more?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you could, as long as there's no like difference in terms of performance between a slim, like a more discreet slim model than the current garish standard model. I think you'd
Well, they
sell
are
more
making
than a
some
slim
internal
model.
adjustments, aren't they? Because of I think to better handle the chip shortage, they're Sony making some adjustments to the current design.
Yeah, that happens throughout console lifespans anyway. Like they always do slight tweaks to consoles. Maybe they'll go to a different memory provider and get a few more like a bit faster memory and stuff. That just happens as part of the course of life. It's been sped up because of chip shortage, but.
Yeah, but it's interesting.
As long as there's no drop off in performance, I think get Slim model out as soon as you can.
So what you're telling me, Richie, is you don't quite fancy paying £45 for one of these fancy coloured Slim plates to to change the appearance of your PS5?
No, because like for a bit of plastic to stick on the outside of my PlayStation, £40 is ridiculous.
There's bright. What if I told you there's bright pink and purple though?
Nope. Still stupid.
Still there. It does look a lot
That's
smarter.
something that should be like a $5.
It does look a lot smarter with the black plates on it, I will say. The dark black plates, and you can get like a vinyl wrap sticker for the shiny middle portion, so it makes it a bit more matte.
Yeah.
And
It doesn't change the size.
That's true.
The profile of it. It's
black
huge.
slimming.
Like
black is very slimming apparently. So
it
just make it black in the first
but
place.
the dimensions are still the same size.
it's all about the visuals. It's all about the visuals.
Yeah.
But that is, gentlemen, all we've got time for on this week's episode of Talking the PS, your weekly PlayStation show where we round up all of the PlayStation and cloud gaming news right here on Helix Cloud Games. Thank you very much for everyone who's tuned in this week. Thank you to everyone who's watched the show so far. Don't forget to give the video a like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you're kept in the loop. Share it with your friends. And if you've enjoyed the show, if you've enjoyed any of our content, do join us in the Discord chat. The link is in the description below. Jump in with us three and fellow like-minded gamers from the cloud gaming community. Talk about all things gaming, being an adult, not getting time to game, being parents, dealing with life in general, and just having a laugh. Thank you to my lovely two co-hosts for jumping on this week. You can find me at CyberChris2077 on Twitter. You can find Jeff at PlatinumJangus on Twitter as well if you want to go do some more trophy hunting with him. Richie, you are at
Richie C89.
And Rob is still sorting what he wants to
I'm
do.
hitting in the Discord.
Rob's in the Discord. Fantastic stuff. Thank you once again, folks, for tuning in for this week's show. My name's been Chris.
I've been Richie. I don't know why I waited delayed there.
You're always second.
I know.
And I've been Rob.
We've been Talking the PS for Helix Cloud Games. And remember, folks, play wherever makes you the happiest. We'll see you on the next one. Have a great week. Goodbye.
Bye.